I'm Melissa Torres.
And I'm Marmy Leach.
And this is Movin with Mel and Marm. We're going to, my friend and I are going to a Taking Back Sunday concert in May.
Oh.
And so I'm like pulling out all the alternative 2000s, you know.
You're going to like put your hair like this
yes.
and do eyeliner like the whole way around?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Wait, I don't think I could tell you what Taking Back Sunday sings.
I couldn't either, but...
You don't know like their most what's their most famous song?
I have no idea.
Okay.
My friend likes them.
Yeah.
I'm along for the ride. But that's the kind of music I listen to. Blue October was my all-time favorite.
I loved Death Cab for Cutie.
Yep.
And OAR.
I don't know that.
Did you listen to OAR?
Mm-mm.
It was a crazy game of poker. You know that song?
No.
That was like a jam band, like really cool in the early 2000s.
I was listening.
At least it was cool to me.
I put on. I told Madeline to put on my Pandora, Taking Back Sunday, and then I was like, you know what? I just need my stuff, so I was like, put on Blue October, and so what is it? Follow Me to the Ocean or something. The Ocean song.
Yeah.
And so we're listening to it and she's like, I mean, I guess this is fine. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is amazing.
Have we come full circle? Because none of that music feels that old to me, but I think it is old.
When I go and show houses that were like 2000s, built in the 2000s, especially because we live in an area where like a lot of them are 50s, 60s, 70s, I'm like, oh, this was built in 2006. This is like new construction.
I know. Same.
And it's like, no, this is almost 20 years old. Where has the time gone?
But 20 years old is not that even old.
I know. But then when I'm like, have buyers that, because these are like suburban houses.
Yeah, so somebody wants a new construction.
Yeah. And they're like, this is so old. My house is like 60 years old.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just all a
I think it's a perspective
thing.
of where you live too. Like if you like grew up on the East Coast, like there's houses like 300 years old over there.
I love old architecture.
I do too.
I love all of the historic, and it's hard because like making spaces work now, like we're so much used to big. Yeah. Like everything is big. And a lot of the historic stuff is like small closets and small rooms and everything is separated. But I mean, there's nothing better than a super sweet Tudor.
I know. I mean, I don't know. I've got to have character in my home. And I do love new as well. I mean, I love both. Yeah. You know, it does come with a lot of things to take care of it. I had a 1920s craftsman bungalow. It was yellow. It was so cute. I still wish I'd kept that house, and it was adorable, but it just had a lot of maintenance. Yeah. And it was drafty in the winter. Yes. My sister lived in I think it was built in 1908. So there was a huge fire in McKinney in the 50s. And so it has on the tax records that it was built in 1950 because of the fire. But they tracked it because they actually like went to get it historically designated. And I think they tracked it down to like 1908. And as much as she loved the house, she was like, there's just something about living in an old house. Like, you know, it's never quite going to be perfect. Yeah. Okay, so speaking of buying, that was a little bit of a tangent, but it was necessary because we're talking about buying today, and we're talking about a common myth that
you need 20% down to buy a house.
Yes. So, Melissa, do you need 20% down to buy a house?
You do not. You do not need 20% down to buy a house.
It is not required.
Right. So there's some loans that you can get as low as 0% down. Now, that doesn't mean that you're coming to the closing table without a dime. That just means that your loan amount is going to be the same amount as whatever you're paying for the house. Yeah. There's still closing costs. So just depending on your particular situation, it may make sense to buy a house with less down so that you're not renting. You're gaining equity with your payments. As long as you're in a situation where you can afford the payment, you're gaining something rather than renting and waiting until you have 20% down.
Yeah. And maybe it makes more sense for you to wait to have the 20% down. Like, it just totally depends on your financial situation and what kind of house you want to buy, like how much you want your monthly payment to be. Like, that is the negative of putting less down, is that your monthly payment's going to be higher because your loan amount is higher.
Right.
So maybe if you put less down, you might have to say, okay, instead of my budget being $500,000, my budget's going to be $400,000 because I'm putting less money down and I need that payment to still be within my means. Then if I were spending $500,000 putting more down, you might get a more updated house, but
and your payment is going to be higher, slightly higher, because if you have less than 20% equity, you're required to have PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. So one thing is, like, if you bought a house in 2019, and the values just shot up. So even
during COVID.
Yes. Even though you hadn't paid off, like, let's say you put 10% down in 2019, and then the values increased so much that even though you hadn't paid down 10% of your loan balance, you had over 20% equity at that time because the value of the house had increased from what you paid for it.
Yeah.
So it's always important to keep an eye on that and talk to your mortgage servicer to see what needs to be done if you believe that you have over 20% equity at a time in the future, to get it reassessed to get that PMI off.
Yeah. Because if you put 5% down, then you have like 5% equity. As the value of the home goes up, all of a sudden you're going to find that you actually do have 20% equity, so you can get it taken off.
Right.
Now, during COVID, I did notice at some closings that some banks were actually putting a limit, and I don't know if they could like actually enforce this, but because everybody was like just getting their PMI removed because the values went up so much so quickly, they put a limit on how soon you could get your PMI.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know if they're still doing that, just because we're not in that situation anymore where like the value went up 20% in a year.
Right.
So I'm not sure, but it's definitely something that you should know, that you aren't limited by just having to save 20%.
Right.
You need like a human
to
tell you, like, run some different scenarios and different ideas and like be creative and come up with the best thing for your situation.
Right. And especially right now, because you can the rates now are better than they were at the end of last year. We're like settled in the 6s. But it might make more sense to, instead of putting money towards your down payment, to actually put it towards buying down the rate to have a lower payment. Like, there's all types of scenarios, and you need to look at, okay, how long are you planning to stay in the house? Is it a house that could you improve the equity right away by doing some improvements to the house? Is it a value add opportunity? There's a million things that you need to like really think about when you're trying to make the best decision.
Yeah. I think a perfect scenario would have been like 5 or 10% down on a house that needs to be remodeled, and then use that other 10% to bring it to like to add sweat equity to it, to remodel it. And then all of a sudden it's worth even more than if you had bought a remodeled house with 20% down.
Yes. And can we talk about this?
Yeah.
The middle of the road houses are such a great opportunity.
Yep.
The ones that can still qualify for a loan. You don't have to be an investor with cash or hard money, but they're not the really pretty ones that everybody is going to fight over.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that, number one, you can put some renovation into it and you can instantly raise your value of your home.
Yep.
And you're usually going to spend, you'll spend $1 here, but you'll get $1.50 in value.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what you do, of course, but you're usually gaining more than the actual cost of the repair. And you usually can negotiate better on those houses because not everybody's fighting over them.
Right. Because everyone's fighting over the fully remodeled or the like needs a full remodel.
Yes.
I love that so much. Like, the middle of the road home is literally the place to be.
Yes.
Like, maybe there's just something about it that needs to be changed and that's why it's not selling. But like, if you can go when you're searching for houses and say, why is this one not sold and the other one sold in 4 days? And if that can be easily changed and the cost to change it is still lower than what that other one cost, then it's perfect.
Yeah. And there's some people that are like, okay, I don't want to deal with construction, whatever.
True.
Okay. Some people, they don't mind paying the premium for it already done. Don't have to worry about it. It's exactly what they would have wanted to do anyways. But there is great value in those middle of the roads. I saw a great quote on Instagram, and I wish I could remember who it was by, but it was buy ugly, sell cute.
Yeah. Oh, I saw that. Did you send that to me? I feel like I saw buy ugly, sell cute. I saw it too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, I know. It was our friend Amy.
Oh, yes.
Amy in Auburn, Alabama.
Yes. Yes. She was at a real estate conference.
Yep.
So I don't think she's the one who said it, but she
was posting some of her favorite quotes she heard at the conference. Yeah. Buy ugly, sell cute.
That is such
shout out to Amy.
Yeah, that is such a good one because it's the truth. Like that's how you can really, without being an actual real estate investor, like that is how you can invest in real estate while still providing yourself with housing.
Yeah. Now it does take cash. So that could be like the only like thing that could stop someone from being able to do it.
Yeah. So, and you know, the nice thing about the middle of the road house, like when we bought our house, it was fine to live in. It was not quite original, but a lot of it was original. Mm-hmm. But it was clean. It was fine. But over the years, like we saved up money and then, you know, we did different stages. So you don't have to be like, oh, I mean, as long as you can live with it for a while, you don't have to say, oh, I'm going to have to redo everything before I move in. You can like gradually do it.
Yeah. And I always think it's a little better that way too, because you can live in the home and see how you live in it. Mm-hmm. And then, because like we did that on one of our houses where we lived with the old kind of gross kitchen for a couple years, saw how we lived in it. I originally had a plan to knock down this wall, realized I do not want to knock down this wall. I need cabinets and everything on the wall. And I'm so glad that I did that because I think I would have made a design mistake had I done it right away.
Yeah, that's true.
So that is the myth of the 20% down. Do you need 20% down? You do not. Should you have 20% down?
It depends.
Depends on your situation.